made a video yesterday talking about feeling and emotion. Well, I've made a couple recently actually, but this specific one was about we use a word like feeling to describe the perception of emotional states and how it's really the mobilization of a metaphor. You know, because our body puts itself into an emotional state, runs some kind of a script or a program, as Damasio says. You know, activates all these all these mechanisms to do with hormones and to do with various biochemical actions and physical actions that our body does. Breathing, pulse rate, heart rate, all this kind of stuff kicks in to produce this emotional state, and then our forebrain perceives that action and represents it as what we call a feeling. You know, so all this, heart rate pumping, bowels evacuating, sweating, all that kind of stuff. Our brain perceives that and calls it fear, for example. So it's the feeling of an emotional state. But and I was talking yesterday about this feeling thing. You know, why is it called feeling? What I was saying there is that, it's using a sensory metaphor, the metaphor of touching something with your fingertips or having something pressed against your skin, because emotional states tend to have that kind of urgency about them. They tend to be experienced as something which is very close and very desperate and very needing immediate attention, vital, crucial, and those kind of things, in the way that things in the material world are when they're pressed up against your skin. You have to pay attention to something when it's pressing against you, you really do. So in that sense, feeling is an appropriate metaphor to use because it signals that urgency, it signals that pressing urgency and the need to pay attention to that emotional state. But, having said that, I suppose I'm just thinking about a bit about Buddhism, I suppose, a little bit. I don't know much about Buddhism, but meditation, and I've done a little bit of meditation, not recently, but I used to do a bit of Vipassana meditation, usually on holiday when I can't go for walks, actually. And one of the things you do in that is you visualize different things. Well, certainly the practice that I used to do, you would start off by experiencing the different things in your body. So if you had a little pain or a piece of discomfort, you would kind of imagine that and kind of see it and let your attention go onto it for a while and then let it drift away. Not become attached to it, in other words. And you would do the same thing, and then you do the same thing with your emotional states. So if you felt a little anxious, or if you felt a little bit bored or frightened or worried about something, again you would see that, but wouldn't let your attention dwell on it. You would kind of detach yourself from it and again let that drift past. Not try to resist it, but again not try to hang on to it either. And then you would do the same thing with thoughts ultimately. So thoughts that emerge, concepts, ideas, you would just see those as rising and passing like clouds in the sky. Again, neither attaching yourself to them nor resisting them, but just letting them arise and fade away. And what I think is interesting about that is that what seems to be happening, at least I think, is a change of metaphor, particularly the emotion thing. Seeing an emotion, seeing an emotional state as kind of hovering in front of you and neither resisting it, neither pushing it away nor attaching yourself to it, that seems to me the mobilization of a visual metaphor as opposed to the feeling, touched metaphor. So, you know what I mean? Like if you see your anxiety in front of you and detach from it, then almost by definition you're not attached to it. It's not against your skin. It's separate from you. There's a bit of free space between you and it. A free space that you are, metaphorically speaking, looking across. Yeah, so I think that's what you're doing really, in a sense. I mean, I'd love to see, I don't know how this would work, but I'd love to see that carried out experimentally, you know what I mean? Would it be possible to stick a person in an fMRI scanner, which is a bit like a magic box, isn't it? But an fMRI scanner, and seeing which bits of their brain light up. Is there a shift going on there from experiencing the emotion as if it was a tactile experiencing, you know, something that you're doing with your skin in your hands. And then if you're in meditation and you're perceiving your emotions, are your visual centers lighting up more? Has it moved from being a tactile perception of an emotional state to a visual perception of an emotional state, with all of the changes that that brings with it in terms of the inferences? Tactile perceptions are close and personal, visual perceptions are potentially distant and detached. Maybe that's what I think, but I'm probably wrong.